That's funny. If it's green, it's on. There you go. Good evening. 5:30, July 22nd, big day. I don't know what I'm going to do by not reminding everyone about July 22nd. Welcome. My name is Claire Andriola, and I'm the Commissioner for Washoe County District 4. But more importantly, I'm more excited to be here with you because today's a pretty amazing day. So just to put this in the context of how we got here, on February 13th of 2024, the Nevada checkbook was launched. That portal was launched by Controller Matthews. I literally found out on February 13th, 2024, and called him. And so if you think about the timeline, not only is it something that I'm extremely proud of Washoe County supporting, but I'm very, very, very appreciative of my colleagues supporting this. Because on April 2025 was launched, right? The April 2025, the Washoe checkbook was launched. And it is live, and it has been, and it will be. So it's not just today, it's going to be an ongoing, every budget will have that opportunity for you every year. But it was clear that budgets are complex. Some of us probably have dealt with big budgets, some have been small, some have been medium. No matter what the budget, it's complex. Certainly, government or Washoe County's budget has complexities, but we have experts in the room who are going to make this really, really simply clear. So, the reality is that it really supports Washoe County's commitment to be transparent, and it allows everyone the opportunity to look at any given time about what funding comes in and what expenses are being, used for various categories, for various departments. But also, it is live. It refreshes every 24 hours. So just so you know, you don't have to wait a long period of time. It will refresh every 24 hours. So the reality is that this is probably one of the most prideful opportunities I can think of to be as transparent as possible, because that, again, aligns with Washoe County and its commitment and all of our commitment to have all of this information available to you live. So I feel like it should be like a showtime, like it's showtime. But it's not really a show. It's the reality of what's happening with taxpayer dollars. We're responsible for being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. Washoe County, from my perspective, is in the customer service business, delivering essential services. And that's our commitment. So tonight, we're going to have this recorded. So if you wanted to go back, whether you're here in person or you're not able to attend, you can watch it. You can go through it, rewind it, obviously, fast forward it, and use it as a resource to move through the budget. So tonight's objective is to be transparent, to give you all an opportunity to be informed, to know how things are put together in order for you to navigate. So we have experts in the room, as I mentioned, who I'm going to turn this over to, but I do really want to thank everyone who had anything to do with this, because we're the first county in the state of Nevada to have done this. And I hope that we see this in all other jurisdictions. But tonight, I'm going to turn it over to Abby Jacobin, who is the CFO for Washoe County, and let her do the introductions. So thank you all for coming. And there are front row seats available for anyone who would like to come and watch it as well. So thank you. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you, Commissioner Andriola, and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our first Budget 101 for Washoe Checkbook. Again, my name is Abby Jacobin. I'm your Chief Financial Officer. I'm going to do a couple of housekeeping items, and then I'm going to introduce our experts, which I'm really excited to do. So if you'd sign in, there's a sign-in form up in the back if you haven't done it with Alex, who's raising her hand, and there's a place to place your email address. And so any questions that we don't get time to answer this evening that we are able to answer, we will do so via email. In addition, there are question cards back there. If you have a question that comes up that you feel is not going to be answered because you're not hearing it, put that down on the question card. I'll be sitting right between Mr. St. John and Ms. Klitsky, and you can give me that question card as I see themes come up, and if I believe my team knows the answer to the question off the top of their head, I will pass it through. If not, we'll find out the answer and we'll forward it on. One thing I will let you know, we've been collecting questions for about a month, and so the format of this meeting is that we'll spend the first hour. We had originally talked about spending about 40 minutes, but as we tried to weave in the answers to the question, presentation is going to be just around an hour, but we're not going to be too strict about it. And then we have 5 or 6 frequently asked questions that come up throughout the year, throughout the last month, in the hallways. Everywhere we hear kind of the same questions coming up that we were not able to weave into the presentation. So we'll take those, and then if I see themes coming through the papers that are in the back, and we can answer them, we'll do those as well. If not, we'll do those a little bit later. But now let me get to the most important piece to introduce my expert teammates that I'm so thankful to work with. First, we have Lori Cook, the county's budget manager. She has over 20 years of municipal government finance. Can you hear me? Thank you. Over 20 years of municipal government finance experience. She has a master's in business administration, and she's a certified grants management specialist, which when Kathy gets to the slide about all the regulatory agencies that audit us every year, we will be very thankful that we have somebody that is in the regulatory and compliance area on our team. Lori and her team, who are sitting in the back here, they compile the county's annual budget, and that plus the financial statements both win the Government Finance Officers Association Award for Best Practices in presentation and delivery of information for more than 20 years. So that's a testament to them, to their teams, and to the county at large. Kathy Hill is the county's comptroller. She has an undergraduate degree in accountancy, a master's degree in business administration, and almost 15 years of finance leadership experience. As I mentioned, she and her team present the annual comprehensive financial report that goes up on the website, that's reported to bondholders, and that's reported to you. And so these are my 2 experts. I am so thankful to have them on my team. I'm thankful that they're here tonight, and I can't wait to hear more from them. Thank you.
Can you, yeah? Okay. I don't want to be too loud. So welcome, Lori Cook, Washoe County Budget Manager. I have been in the budget division since, I have been in the budget division since 2013. Before that, I was in department land, so I have worked on the department side. I worked for public health and the senior center, public guardian's office, tech services. So been around a couple times. So we will start with budget and Budget 101. One of the frequently asked questions, I'm not going to go over it later, but we will get asked, what is my budget? In reality, what people are asking us is, how much have we spent? Or what are our expenses? And so those are, they're related. They are 2 different things. So the budget is a separate plan. It's our document, and we are legally required to have an adopted budget every single year per statute. It has to be a balanced budget. Balanced does not mean that we cannot use our savings. So there's a structurally balanced budget, which means all of your resources cover all of your uses, sources and uses. And then there are which is your structurally balanced budget, a budget that uses savings, whether that's one time or however you're implementing using those savings is still balanced. We cannot go into debt. We can't issue debt to cover our operations. So we're prohibited from doing that. Interesting, I am not going to read all of this. I would butcher half of the French in here, but it's a very interesting coming up with or understanding the how this came about. is one example of a term that started in the government or the public sector and then went out into private sector. So we can see here that talking about opening the budget in the late 1800s and late 19th century, as well as coming from your purse, right? It means a purse bag. So what is a budget? We talk about this where if you look at what we've already spent, that's kind of where we've been. Your budget is where you're going. You're telling your money where to go. For us, it's our legally approved appropriations. So we have to have those appropriations to spend them. So in its simplest form, it's a financial plan, operations guide, and communication tool. It's also based on strategic priorities established by policymakers. Give a little bit of clarity on that. So you can look at the strategic plan of any organization. That's not necessarily going to flow through to each and every single individual activity that is funded, okay? We have things that we have to provide. They're mandated services or they're mandated by your policymakers. Those don't necessarily show as separate initiatives in your strategic plan, but budget process starts with strategic planning. Some of those entities that define or prioritize, right? We can talk about at the federal level. We have Congress, we have our state legislature, commissions, councils, GID boards, boards of directors, and private corporations. I put spouse on here because that's just how it works in my house. Is one of us tends to be more of the policymaker than the other. I'll just say. What budget isn't? It's not an exact science. So we use data. It is data driven. We use forecasting tools. We look at historical trends. We work with departments. We get information, but it is not an exact science. I will tell you, with very few exceptions, if you see a financial statement where your budget and your actuals match exactly, that's a problem. It is a problem. So you could say, well, we're only going to spend $20,000 on this and you spend it, that's okay. But when you see there's a budget of $200,000 for a department and they spend $198,000, we see that all the time. So it's more of an issue when we're looking at those to see things that exactly match than those that are slightly different. It's also not limited to money. So we do focus on finances. We do focus on the funding aspect of it, but all of us every day, right? We had to budget our time, our supplies, our energy in some cases, talents and skills, natural resources. So it's not a concept limited to money, although that tends to be a fairly large focus. So for the county, we have to have legal appropriations, we have to have legally adopted budget. It is certified by the Department of Taxation. So it goes through the process, which we'll talk about in a couple of slides, and it gets submitted to the Department of Taxation. They have to certify that budget. Well, what could go wrong? If we do not have a certified budget or if it does not follow the legal process, last year's budget becomes your next year's budget. For us, in some years, that might be not terrible. It's nothing we want to have happen. But in most years it would be, right? That means that there might be initiatives that you can't implement. There are changes based on contracts or other things that we don't have the appropriations or the funding for. If that happens and we go through the process and then we submit, we say, no, we need to amend our budget. This happened with our timeline, whatever might have been the exception. The governing body, so the Board of County Commissioners, would not be able to reconsider that budget without the express approval of Department of Taxation. So even if we said, hey, look what's going on, this is what we think is going to happen, if the Department of Taxation says, no, that's great, too bad, so sad, we have last year's budget. Inaccurate or non-certified budgets also have the potential to impact the county's credit rating. That is important for a multitude of reasons, but most obvious is credit rating. Better credit rating means that we are more stable, it means we're less risky, and it means that we can get better interest rates when we issue debt or if we refund, i.e. refinance debt. So I'm not going to read all the long circles to you, but we do have role and mission of the budget division. So the budget division is within finance, the finance department. One of the main goals, obviously, is the preparation of the annual operating budget to meet the county manager and the Board of County Commissioners' goals. We also monitor, track, and forecast revenue and expenditures. We work with the Comptroller's Office when it comes to monitoring and ensuring compliance with various federal statutes, Nevada revised statutes, county code, county policy. We're the division that handles the debt management. And so there's a debt management policy, and there's a plethora of things that go along with that. We do work with departments when appropriate. We can't just necessarily insert ourselves, but we can help in many cases if there's a work program analysis or, cost-benefit analysis, those types of things as they come up. So our process is, and we get comments, that's another frequently asked question, what are you going to do now that the budget's adopted? Oh, we have full-time jobs. There's plenty to do on top of just the annual budget, but it is year-round. So you at large, should not wait and one time a year look at budget. It's something that really should be reviewed often, and it's both sides. So what did we think, where did we think we were going to be, and where are we actually? And so for us, it's a constant, right? It's a cycle. There are different budgeting methods. This is important because we do get questions of, well, how is it determined what department or what programs get funded at what levels? So we and a lot of government entities have the same process. It's incremental or base budgeting. So what that means is what was approved your current year or your last year rolls forward. So those are all of your staff, those are your contracts, those are those things, if you have 5 vehicles, whatever there might be associated with that. Then adjustments are made based on what we know, so we could have collective bargaining agreements that have COLAs for employees. Oftentimes there are changes in group insurance or health insurance premiums. There could be contracts that are expiring or contracts that are multi-year, and we have to do our best to estimate what those resource needs are that have already been approved, because we only adopt a 1-year budget. State does 2 years, we do 1 year. But there are other ways to move forward or to budget. You can have program-based budgeting where all your resources and your assets and your uses are just purely outlined by program. You have target-based. So maybe you have a target of, for this department, the target is a budget of X. Or for this department, the target is service for X or Y. Performance-based budgeting, that's performance and outcome driven. So we want this outcome, we build the budget, this is what we need to fund that outcome. And zero-based budgeting. Zero-based is probably my least favorite because you basically wipe everything out and start over and build your budget over every single year. And it's good from a justification and a review and looking at, maybe what you do as a service provider, but it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of resources, and things can be missed, right? Things can fall through the cracks. So that's just kind of explaining the process that we use. This is really our timeline. So, and just to know, you may or may not be aware, but there was a study, the Raftelis study, as far as related to the county manager's office, and we are making some changes and implementing some changes moving forward with strategic planning. We started prior to that with some changes to the budget process. We want to increase inclusion. We want to increase, the ability for the public to be engaged and to give us information. Just so you know, we are, working on those things, but it's not just the traditional, but it's the very traditional. So we look at, starting with strategic planning, the departments look at their base budgets. Usually they're not requesting to have less resources, so when we move into the next year, it's usually additional resources. We provide a preliminary budget or financial outlook to the board, usually by the end of January. That way we kind of have half a year under our belts. The department meetings with the manager's office this year we held what's called a budget congress. And so all the departments, so representatives from all the departments came together. It was a long day. We got some positive feedback. There's obviously things that we can do to keep enhancing that process. But it's, everybody in the room talking about what you need to talk about. So my opinion is that it increases transparency, and so it doesn't appear as if things go behind at the department level, that decisions aren't just being made in a black box. And everybody, most times if there's an issue or a problem in one department, there's probably another department that's experiencing it. And they can also share success stories or things that they've been able to do to mitigate some of those. Then we get our consolidated tax and property tax revenue projections, the finals, by the end of March. This is a tricky date because we have to submit our tentative budget to the state by the 15th of April. And then we have to go forward to the board with the recommended budget and do our public hearings. And so it's really a time crunch. It's very, very important. Property taxes are number one source of revenue across all funds in the county, is the largest revenue. Consolidated tax is, I won't say it's the second largest. They're the utilities fund, and some might have some other ones. I'm pretty sure it's probably close. And C-tax is in the general fund, so it's in the general fund only. We do spend a lot of time and talk about the general fund. It is by far our largest fund, and it funds, basically when we go to the slide, we talk about functions, it basically funds all the functions except those in proprietary funds. So we get those projections finalized, then we, move. Sometimes we have, now of course we estimate earlier than that, but it could be more, it could be less. We're just, we wait until we get those final numbers. And then end of April, usually, there's a recommended budget that's presented to the Board of County Commissioners. In between that, we do, probably for 5 or 6 years now, have had individual meetings with the commissioners to talk about, the requests we receive, what we're seeing for forecasts, what potential recommendations are going to be. Then we have a public hearing for the adoption, public hearing and adoption of the final budget. And it's a statutory timeline, so we cannot have it any earlier than the third Monday in May, and we can't have it any later than May 31st because our budget has to be approved and submitted to the state by June 1st. So it's a little quirky with the statutory guidelines. When I first started in budget, I was like, why does the state have all this say, and why are we dealing with them all the time? And what I've been told, so I'm not going to go on the record and swear, on something, is that we cannot declare insolvency. We can't say we're bankrupt. So I don't know how many years back it is. One of my team members remembers when she lived in the city of Leo in California. That's not something that we can do. So the state would have to come in. And then, well, first we'd probably be put on fiscal watch, but the state would have to come in, and then we'd have to figure out how to provide those services. So that's why they're involved, and we're not home rule. So we have authorities given to us by statute. If it's not specifically allowed or permitted by statute, it's assumed that it's not allowed. So, talking about statute, this is my favorite statute. It's not necessarily everybody else's favorite statute. This is my favorite statute. We will get questions, well, what if A, B, and C happens? Why can't this department or this department head just go spend whatever they need? Well, we do our best to try to make accommodations and reallocate and do what we need to do. But if a department has a budget and they willfully just say, I'm going to spend what I want, and they overexpend that budget, it's a crime. In the state of Nevada, it's a crime. So we take it very seriously. Our department has taken it seriously. I don't want to, say that, we have these rogue things going on. But it is, so not only is it best practice, things that we should be doing, you should be trying to figure, if there's things going haywire with your plan, you reach out to finance, we try to figure out what we can do. It is a crime. So, once we have the adopted budget, there are ways that it can be adjusted. So we can have prior year restricted funding. Say we have donations and we don't spend all of them, we can carry forward that authority to spend that into the future year, the next year. That's done as part of the annual comprehensive financial report that Kathy will speak to later. Augmentations. So this is pure augmentation. This is adding more expenditure authority. We have to have a source for that. And then those sources are outlined per statute. So it's pretty strict in Nevada. It's not strict in all states, but strict in Nevada. One of those criteria is you have, they call it excess opening fund balance. So an example of that would be, we budgeted $1 million ending fund balance for the general fund. We end up with $1.2 million. We can only augment that $200,000. Even though, in reality, if we look at the financial statements and the cash flow, we're like, actually, we probably could augment $800,000. We legally cannot because it's not excess. And so that's why our estimates to complete and finishing out the year where we plan to be it's just another reason why it's so important. We can amend for new supplemental grants, gift and aids, and donations. Those go to the Board of County Commissioners with the exception of Board of Health does some of their approvals related to approving contracts. But to amend the financial system, that has to go to the Board of County Commissioners. So that would be, we get a grant, we didn't plan for it, we didn't know how much we were going to get, so we didn't budget for it, those types of things. We get donations. Those are considered amendments. And then appropriation transfers. And so we can move funding. If the funding crosses funds, or if it crosses functions, it has to go to the Board of County Commissioners. So then you might see those in staff reports that talk about cross-fund transfers or cross-functional transfers. Those are required to go to the board either for acknowledgement or for approval. Some key financial policies, and there's an entire section in our budget book, and I might be able to have time to click on the link when we're here. It's our financial policies. And it's an entire section of the budget book. These are select, or they're the most pertinent, if you will. So a stabilization within the general fund, so it's a restricted portion of fund balance. It's a minimum of $3 million. It's limited to 10% of budgeted expenditures. So if the general fund was budgeted, say, $500 million, we would be limited to 10% of that for stabilization. We also are limited on how we can access that stabilization. So we have to meet revised statute requirements, so declared emergency, loss of life property, financial emergencies, but those have to be very specific financial emergencies. It's not just we ran out of money. That doesn't meet the criteria of statute. The 10 to 17% for working capital, that's what we talk about as our ending fund balance policy. That's non-restricted fund balance. So the $3 million for stabilization, that's restricted. We also have other restrictions that, for whatever, either legal commitments restrictions. So the unrestricted, the policy is 10 to 17%. Local governments are required to have a 4% fund balance in their general fund. That would be extremely low. Our finance team would not be comfortable with that. If we just, look at just the numbers, if you amortize or if you annualize, you need about 8.5% of what you think you're going to spend every month, right? So 4% would give you 2 weeks. So that's a very low figure. It's a very low number, but there are some funds that might be appropriate, maybe a capital fund where you're spending down one-time money. General fund contingency not to exceed 3% of the general fund budget shall be budgeted. So we're limited in contingency. So if we have budgeted expenditures of, again, $100 million, we would be limited on our contingency budget to 3% of that. So revenues. The takeaway here is to use recurring revenues for recurring resources, right? That's how you keep yourself out of issues or potentially get yourself out of issues when you're talking about structural deficits. Shall avoid targeting revenues for specific programs unless legally required or when the revenue source has been established for the sole purpose of financing a specified program or project. An example of a specified program or project might be short-term rentals. But for the most part, when they're in the general fund and they're unrestricted, they go into the general fund, and we do not say, we're using this portion of C-tax for whatever, the detention facility. It goes in, it's our sources, and then we have our uses. So unless we're required to show that those are related or that those are connected, that's not how it's reflected in the financial statements. But we do, if there's revenue associated with a department or a department activity, it does show in the financial statements for that department. Expenditures, this is another, so not only is it statutorily prohibited from willfully overexpending your budget, it's also a code, Washoe County code, that departments shall not exceed their total authorized budget. Augmentations, other types of changes go through the budget division. We can do some net zero reallocations. Base budget, so this just talks about what I explained earlier, but what does that mean? What does your base budget mean? Services and supplies are funded at base plus adjustments, and then for known contractual and personnel increases, those are included as well. So when we talk about our financial structure and we talk about budgets, so not only can we not be willfully overexpend. Per statute, we cannot be over budget by fund, so general fund has to be within its budget. By function, so public safety, judicial, whatever those functions are, or by function within fund. Some of our funds have multiple functions. General fund is an example of those. So we have to double check those. We have to figure out where we think we're going. We work with the departments, get estimates, and then adjust as necessary. After June 30th, we cannot adjust the budget. So we'll still get invoices and we'll still be posting after June 30th. We cannot adjust the budget after that. And so we get down on the functions, right? So then we have, so if you see utilities, building and safety, golf, debt service, those are in the proprietary funds. The fund types, we have governmental funds, right? So we have the general fund, special revenue funds. Special revenue funds are public health, child protective services, any of what we call them R2 funds, senior services. Some of those funds receive property tax allocations or property tax amounts, and some do not. Then we have our proprietary funds. So enterprise funds act like a business. So we have utilities, golf, and building and safety. And then internal service funds are those things that we kind of provide to ourselves. So we have equipment services, health benefits, and risk management. Just want to note that for our budget for Washoe County, we do not budget for Truckee Meadows Fire and Rescue, or TMFPD, whichever acronym you've heard, or Washoe County School District. These are separate legal entities, even though Truckee Meadows Fire has the same board, and they do get reported as a component unit in the financials. They're not our budget. They submit a separate budget to the state. They get certified. They have their own public hearings, their own process. So just kind of a shortcut, if you will, for these fund types. The general fund, I think of that maybe like as a checking account. There obviously are restrictions, but there's fewer restrictions. There's more unrestricted activity in those funds. Special revenue funds, those are usually restricted or limited by regulation, statute, code. The funder, that's where our grants show up. So if we get grant dollars for certain things, they go into a restricted fund. Those funds are not commingled. That's important when we're talking about designated, limited, restricted funds. We have our debt service funds. So most of us have had vehicle loan or maybe a student loan or mortgage or whatnot. So that's the debt service that we pay on. Those are in our debt service funds. And then our capital projects funds, those are basically our construction accounts, if you will. So you will see sometimes a fluctuation in how much is available, because we might fund a project and then we spend, and then we have another project and then we spend. But those are still, it's still a governmental fund, but looks a little bit different on from the financial perspective. Again, the proprietary funds, these are, and the numbers are in there, so if you ever look at the financial statements or you see a staff report or something coming forward and they refer to something as Fund 100, Fund 220, this is kind of a mapping for those numbers. Enterprise funds are 500s, and those are the ones I mentioned earlier, and then internal service funds are all 600s. 618, 619, and 669, if I remember correctly. As our largest source of revenue, property tax. These are, it says fiscal year 26 proposed. I took this from the May 20th. These have been certified by the tax commission. So this is the rate. So if you see the Washoe County rate, the 1.3917, that is not obviously the 3.66 or 3.5, depending on, which district a property owner may live in or a property might be in, a parcel might be in. That is the rate levied for Washoe County. So this year, the large change, and I think, we've all heard it or all understand it, was for the library, and it's the library expansion fund, and that's in blue. So that rate went to 0 effective July 1st. That prior amount, which was 0.02, was recommended and approved to be in the operating rate, so basically becomes unrestricted at that point. And then the youth services levy rate is established by the state. We collect that and then we pass that through. Now Douglas County runs that, but it's the China Spring Youth Camp. And then the debt rate. So as debt falls off, or as the debt rate goes down and what we need to recoup from the property tax rate goes down, we adjust that rate gets adjusted. The base rate for all of Washoe County is on the top right-hand corner, and you can see the state of Nevada has their 17 cents. We have Washoe County, debt service, so we have those are two, they're both Washoe County. 1.3917, then you have the general for the school district as well as the school debt service, so that's the 2.7002. But if you live in a city, one of the cities, so Sparks or Reno, they have a rate, and that's the 0.9598. If you happen to live within the North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District, that rate is on top of that base rate. Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, obviously the state of Nevada, and very general improvement districts, they vary. And these rates we call them, they're identified in the Red Book, is what it's called, through local government finance, through the Department of Taxation, and that's the link to go to their website. So you can look at all, you can look at Clark County, you can look up, it's interesting sometimes. So, what this all turns into, you put it all together, you have your strategic planning, you have your base budgets, you have your meetings with your departments, you have your discussions with your policymakers, your commissioners. We have to submit a budget. And so the adopted budget, which changes, per those conditions I talked about earlier, is a little over $1 billion. Now, this is expenditures and transfers. Those transfers that go to other funds support expenditures in those funds. So if you're only looking at expenditures or expenses, no budgeted contingency or the transfers, it's that $932 million. But we can see that obviously the largest portion of that is the general fund at 51%. Basically, other than the proprietary funds, almost I think every fund or every department has a piece of the general fund. So it's very large. We do spend time and energy speaking about it and focusing on it. 100% of the consolidated tax, the C tax, goes into the general fund. So it's not that the other funds aren't important. It's just it's our largest fund and has most of our operations, most of our departments. So we also talk about service delivery. So back to Commissioner Andriola's point, we're a customer service delivery organization. We serve the citizens, right? You look at the organizational chart, citizens are at the top. And then it's just data points. So we can see from 2008, which was our highest number of FTEs as a county prior to the Great Recession. And then if we look at fiscal year 26, right? So we have and this is certified by the state demographer, so you might see sometimes different numbers on population, but these are the numbers that we use for our state or our budget that we submit to the state, which is certified by the state demographer. So we can see over 100,000 increase in population, and in that same time, basically flat number of FTEs. Went down, came back up. So in some cases, we've had to be more efficient. We've had to, implement technology solutions or delivering service differently or how we're working. There's no way to keep up with that level of population increase and need associated with those population increases if we did not gain efficiency somewhere. So, when we talk about these, and these are just governmental funds, so when we talked about earlier, these are governmental funds. This slide is important. It shows the different functions, and I always state this, and as a disclaimer, public safety is not just the sheriff's office. A big chunk of it is the sheriff's office, but we also have our regional medical examiner, we have juvenile services, the public guardian, the public administrator, fire suppression, fall under public safety as well. Then we have welfare, and this is not in any particular order. It just shows what the budget is, how much of it is as a percentage of the total authority. Back to the general fund. So this is basically a sources and uses. So we do not have a structurally balanced budget. So we do have a budgeted deficit using savings or fund balance, if you will. The sources on the left, yes, and uses on the right. And like most service delivery organizations, but very much like most local governments or government organizations, the majority of the expenditures are related to people. So we have salaries and wages. Those are salaries and wages, your base salaries, incentive, special pays, callback, overtime, those types of things. Then we have employee benefits. And the benefits are things like retirement PERS, group insurance, OPEB, other post-employment benefits, that is funded. But when you look at the two of them together, it's 66% of total uses. It's a higher percentage, close to 80% of just expenditures, if you're not talking about the transfers out or the contingency. That is in alignment with service organizations or local governments. But I think, it's not a secret. I mean, we talked about it at the board. PERS had a crazy increase effective 14th, effective last Monday, and pretty significant increase. And we had a fairly large increase from the prior the prior 2 years. So it did turn us a little bit because we found out the first week of December, and it had a material change in their forecast and where we thought we were going to be financially. So, but we can see it's not insignificant, but services and supplies is 17%. I mean, cut services and supplies in half, it would be a large absolute dollar amount, but as a percentage, where we really see the impacts are related to personnel. This is the same information, it's just presented like more in a table instead of a pie chart. And so we can see that the final budget, we do have a deficit budget of that $2.5 million. Transfers out, so this goes into the total uses, these support expenditures in these other funds. We have a transfer to indigent services, we have the homelessness fund, capital improvement, the health district, Northern Nevada Public Health, roads fund, debt, senior services, a small 4-hour computer-aided dispatch and records management system, so that upgrade, and then total general fund, and then it shows 26 compared to 25, so those did go up. 5-year forecast. So when we talk about, the changing trends of revenue and expenditures, and we start forecasting and we look out into the future, when we see structural deficits over multiple years and it brings you down and brings you out of your fund balance policy, and they're also related to ongoing expenditures, then we have concerns and we bring those up with policymakers. We talk to department heads, we send information, and then we have to start digging in and figuring out, okay, well, how do we change this? How do we change this trajectory? The yellow in fiscal year 29 is on there because that's technically below the policy level of 10 to 17%. The red is in there in 2030 because that would be illegal. That's below the 4% statutorily required fund balance at year end. So it's right. If you look at the average, we see average sources increasing 4.6 and uses increasing 5.5. That in and of itself is a structural deficit. The assumptions or the major assumptions are listed below. I don't need to read those, but we do look at this all the time. I won't say I review it weekly, at least monthly. After we close out our month and we see what happened as far as the prior month and where do we end up with expenditures and revenues, we adjust and we update based on what we know. So, people think finance people aren't funny. We are extremely funny. And but I didn't want to offend anybody if you're like a dog or a cat person, so I just put one of each on there. And there's supplemental information I'll read through a little bit. I always point, when I can, to the budget book. And so this is just the main budget website. So you can see we have a capital improvement plan, cost allocation plan, debt management. This will bring you back once we get this posted to the Budget 101 information. So if we go to the archived budget, you can't see it? Oh my goodness. You were. How do I can't share that, can I? Somebody super smart, tell me how to share maybe I just have to minimize this. Hold up. That's not working. It's still not up there. That's crazy. We have a really great budget book, and it's award-winning, and we got special recognition for this year, and we're so proud of it, and you're going to help me. Thank you very much. I don't know how to share it. Maybe it's like a screen share thing for the presentation.
Let's see.
That's my bad.
It's okay. Let's just.
Oh, there we go.
Which slide was it? We were on this one right here.
Yeah, you had it up there, though.
This one?
No, one more slide up.
This one.
And then it's that link.
Oh, you're going to the link?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think you already had it.
So,
I saw it up there a second ago.
Was it this
Yep,
one?
right there. Okay. Woohoo. Thank you. Thank you. So, we have a really good budget book. Take you to the table of contents. So, financial policies, we have our title page, there's mission, there's a lot of information included in the budget book, the 5-year forecast, every department's budgets, enhancements. So I'll pick something. I'll pick district court. There's a link. It gives you the organization chart. It talks about the mission, the description, references back to statutory authority, gives you a link to the website. We talk about 2025, so we don't have the 26 book ready yet, but 2025, like what was changed, what were enhancements, what were changed, or what was changed. We also have, so this is pseudo, I'm gonna call it pseudo program, administrative division, general jurisdiction division, family court division. Those are financial divisions or fund centers. They're not necessarily as granular as a program budget could be, but they're pretty specific. And so you can see the budget, the estimate through the end of the year, and then the adopted budget, what those changes are, and then what those sources are, right? So in the Second Judicial District Court, the taxes are related to family court. So there's a tax levy or a tax amount related to supporting the family court. So all the departments, all the funds are in this book. We have summaries. You can click back to table of contents anytime you want to. We talk about the strategic plan performance measures. So I refer a lot to this because it does have some longitudinal information as well as descriptions and the mission. And those come from the departments. We don't make that up. We get those from the departments. So that's, for me, that's an important resource. I'll go back into slideshow mode here real quick. Okay. So these are all of those funds, right? So this is just a different way of looking at it, but for fiscal year 26. So general fund, health fund, public health, library expansion fund. There is a budget in there, even though there's no tax levy, to spend the remaining or what we anticipated the remaining funds would be. Animal services, so on and so forth. And this goes all the way through to these total governmental funds. Debt is in there, capital is in there. Then we have proprietary non-expendable trust funds, so those are proprietary funds. We do not budget for fiduciary funds, but the comptroller's office, those are in our financial statements. This is governmental funds by function and department, so you can see what the department appropriations are. It's not broken down to personnel, but in the budget book, it is. So when you go down to the expenditures, it will say salaries and wages, so it'll have those separate categories. These are the total amounts. And these are not in any particular order. It's how they best fit on the slide. Then we have our proprietary fund budget, so you can see utilities from a proprietary fund is, or enterprise fund is the largest. And this is a different way to look at that 5-year forecast. So this is related to the red bar, or the blue bars are sources, the red bar is our uses. You want the blue bar to be higher than the red bar. And the green is the anticipated or estimated fund balance. So you can see, same as that forecast, that fund balance coming down or going down. So now I get to hand it over to Kathy. I know I talked way too long, so I apologize for that, but I could go another couple hours, so there you go.
Hello, so like Larry presented, when they do the budget, where are we going? And then we go to the comptroller's department, and that tells us where did we end up with all the expenditures through the year. So my department will do the actual expenditures that will result in the annual comprehensive financial report. We also have quarterly expenditure reports that are published and quarterly financial reports that are published, as well as the annual financial report that is published, and we'll go more into that later. So in addition to the Nevada revised statutes that budget must follow to make sure that they follow all the necessary regulations and guidelines, to give you an idea of what we also go through in the Comptroller's Department, we have the internal audit, the external audit, a program audit, state audit, federal audit, PERS audit, OPEB audit, Nevada revised statutes, Washoe County Code, generally accepted accounting principles, generally accepted Accounting Standards Board, the Government Finance Officers Associations, and the SEC filings for the debt. So we can't go off track. We have to follow all those rules, all those regulations, and we get audited on all these constantly. The annual financial audit is a two-part audit. It's 4 weeks for the single audit. The single audit is for any grants and federal funds that the county receives, and then anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks for the financial audit, and this is every year. All the other audits vary in time and length and complexity, but we do have to report within their guidelines, and our financial reporting also matches that of budget. We have to report by fund, by function, and department information, and we will show that to you as well as we move on. So there's no new information that is being presented to you today with the Washoe County checkbook. However, it is easier, hopefully, for the residents to understand. This information has always been available on the website, but hopefully with the interactive nature, you'll find it easier and more transparent for you to use. And again, to piggyback on what Commissioner Andriola said, this is at a point in time. This changes daily. So if you look at it today and then you look at it tomorrow, you will see different figures there. Okay, it was working before we got, here we go. All right, so here, just hit enter, hit control escape. So here is the open checkbook website. You'll see here in the budget. Hello? We have a sense of humor in finance and we play tricks.
Did he come?
Did he
Oh,
leave?
this is different. Oh. What did he do?
I don't know.
Did he minimize it?
Here comes Reggie and Gohar.
Oh, good.
We tested this and everything. So when the guy who was from TNC hit
that's
escape.
interesting.
There he is.
Yeah, see? Reggie, come back.
Reggie.
Oh, sorry.
No, not.
Go for it. Oh, George? Was it George? Come back.
We work as a family here at Washoe County. There you go. I hit escape, or maybe I'll hit it loud. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. A round of applause for these guys. So you'll see here on the checkbook website, we have the budget figure that Lori just went over, budget expenditures and budgeted revenue. The area that I think that would greatly benefit you guys, that might be more interesting for you to delve into, is the total spending. Currently, it says $24.16 million. That's where we are today. So if you go, I'm going to go back one. I think a good place for everyone to start on the main page is if you go to the bottom, we have a whole bunch of frequently asked questions here. So if you have questions about the budget, about the financial reporting, where this information is coming from, why it's coming from, I highly suggest that you start with the frequently asked questions, and maybe that'll give you a little bit more guidance as far as what you're looking at. So if we go under total spending, this is, again, for fiscal year 26. If you look at the top, it says entire ledger 2026. $24.16 million has been spent so far this year. You can look at it by special revenue fund, going back to what Lori said, the general fund, internal service funds. You have the line of what the budget is. 9.65 is the budget. By fund, we will go over to the checkbook portion, and you can see what payments have been issued to which vendors. This goes in alphabetical order. You can also search if you want to know from a particular vendor what has been paid so far in this fiscal year. You can type in the vendor name. We'll just do Granite Construction for giggles. And we'll go back to checkbook because it took it to spending summary, and it'll list individual invoices that have been issued to that vendor. It is very user-friendly. It looks like so far in 2026, we've paid them $50,951. You can go back to the entire ledger, go to spending summary by vendor on this page if you wanted to go alphabetically or by dollar amount. You can click here. You can go down to department, sheriff's, district court, risk management, homelessness, health benefits. And you can go by fund. So if you play around in the system, you should be able to find anything that you're looking for. If you're curious of what, again, this will match the budget that Lori has presented. It'll show you what expenditures we've done so far this year. Again, right now it says 24.16 million. Tomorrow it may say 25 million. It's all at a point in time, and it updates every 24 hours. I highly recommend to go in and play. It is fun. It is user-friendly. They did a great job, State of Nevada and Washoe County, on making it very convenient and easy to navigate through.
Kathy, can you show them that there should be multiple years available?
Yes, there are multiple years. It starts with 2024, 2025 last year, which we have not finished the audit. We're just starting the single audit in 2026. Now we're going to successfully go back to the presentation. Maybe not. Here we go. Okay. 16 million clicks later. Here we go. So again, this is not new information. So what all this information culminates into is the annual comprehensive financial report. You can find this on the comptroller's website, which I may have a problem again. Oh, magic. Okay, it might have been me. Just going to be honest there. The annual comprehensive financial report can be a daunting document for some people to understand. Financial statements, it's not your interest, it's not your forte. I totally get that. It's a very big document. The last one that was audited for FY24, I would recommend that if you look at it, if you go to the pages that have the verbiage, that will give you an idea of what you're reading. What is bringing that into play? Why is it recorded that way? What those numbers say? And then, of course, this worked differently on my computer back on my desk. What also comes in here is you will see in the financial report, please don't pass out from the dizzy stuff going on. It will show what the budget was, what the expenditure was, what the expenditures were for the year. So if you want to see in comparison, how did a department do based upon their budget? Where did they end up? Were they under, were they over? Going back to what Lori said, to willfully go over budget is illegal. However, the county does have constitutional services it has to provide that you can't stop and say, well, this is over budget, we're not going to offer that anymore. Those could include public defender for people in the courts, interpreters, transcription fees. They are not willfully going over budget, they're providing the services to those in need of it. And we're supposed to be, where's my page number on this, Lori? I lost it. Just patience, if you would. I want to show you what valuable information you can get that takes this whole combination of this presentation from budget and finance. Yeah, but that's after the, my pages. This is the verbiage part that I told you about. This is the debt part. Hold on, we're going to get there. It's not there. I don't want to make you dizzy, Janet. I'm looking at you and I'm just feeling sorry for you. So if you have the time, it is online. It is on the comptroller's website. The open checkbook access is on the comptroller's website, as is the annual financial report. It will give you the information of everything that was presented today, where the departments landed. If you want to know How much did we spend on parks and recreation? It's a great document to go to. I also highly recommend for people who come to me and want to understand the financial report that should they be moving out of the area or they have a family member moving to another state and they're not sure, do I want to live there? Well, take the time to look at their annual financial report. How much money do they put in the programs that you're interested in? How much of their budget and expenditures go to that? It's a great document that has a lot of wealth of information that all residents can benefit from. My RSI what? Yeah, I was trying to get the MD&A. Yeah, sorry, tech talk. So please take the time. Again, the financial statement's not your forte. Go ahead and read the paragraphs. It'll tell you in the section called Management Discussion Analysis what happened through the year, where the money went to, where the changes were, if anything unexpected happened. And on that note, I'm just clicking all over the place trying to find the presentation again. There we go. That is the end, I believe, of our slide for questions. Abby?
Testing?
You want to come up here?
Can you hear me?
Lori.
Thank you. Okay, so as you know, as we talked about a little bit before, we've been taking questions for the last month, and we know what we're hearing in the hallways and what people seem to really want to know from us. So we picked out several questions that that I believe you'd be happy to answer and may help those people asking the questions. The first one: what's the most frequently asked question that you receive? What do you get most?
In the comptroller's department is, are you audited every year and how long does that audit take? And so for the single audit, 4 weeks, 5 auditors, financial audit, 6 to 10 weeks, 8 auditors.
Oh boy, how much money does the county spend? What is the budget? What programs are funded? Those just, how much do I have left, or how, what was the, funding for X, Y, or Z program or X, Y, or Z department most of the time.
And so most of that testing, okay, I can hear myself now. Most of that is available on checkbook or in the budget book, or if there's something that you can't find or you need a little bit more training or a little bit more information, let us know. But all of the answers to the questions all the answers that you've just stated, I can think of places either in the budget book, the checkbook, or the annual comprehensive financial report where those can be found on the comptroller's website, on the budget website, or on the checkbook website.
And just as a clarification, on the budget site, we will have 2 documents. One is what we call our state document, which is our state budget. We submit it to the state. We have to submit it in their, of course, it's the state. We have to submit it in their form, on their forms, in their format. The budget book, in my opinion, there's a lot of information, different information, demographic, economic, history. It's the same financial information, but like right now, the fiscal year 26 budget is available. It's posted. It's called the state doc or the state document.
I will say that I have been in this line of work since 2003, and I still use the budget book, the debt management policy, the financial statements, and now the checkbook 10 times a week, if not more. So these are documents that once you get familiar with them, you can immediately go to them, read about the different departments, read about their statutory authority, and then the goal is to make you feel more comfortable when you're coming in here during budget season so that you can ask those questions and really participate in the process. So I use those documents, even though I've been in this line of work a long time. So the next question, how do I do business with the county? I'm a local vendor, and I'd like to know.
To do business with the county, when we go out for RFPs, for requests for proposals, or RFQs, or requests for qualifications, those are posted in paper here in Building A. They're also registered with an organization called Demand Star. Anything that reaches a certain threshold, we have to follow federal and state procurement requirements. If you have anything of a smaller amount that doesn't meet those requirements, you can reach out to purchasing. You can talk to the departments of saying, hey, I make paper mache flowers. Do you have a need for those? And work with the departments on that.
If I'm a local business, do I get preference? And how did you make the decision to answer the way that you did?
So we are limited on advertising on RFPs for local business, and the reason why, when you put out a request for proposal, you have to go with the most responsible bidder. So our local person may have a higher price, and the quality may not be as much as another company in another state. We have to look at the best interest for the best dollar for Washoe County. We do support local, especially those that are not on the RFP. We do Amazon. We have a government account with Amazon, and we worked with Amazon that the local business owners pop up first on the list when somebody searches for something on the Amazon website. So we try to do creative things like that that are allowable within the procurement laws.
Thank you very much for that. One thing I do find in being new to the state of Nevada from another state is that our procurement rules are very, very strict, which is a good thing. But when I mean, there are things we can do and can't do, and there's not a lot of gray area. So thank you for that. Thank you to the person that asked this question. What is the general fund and why is it presented so often? And I understand from seeing the presentation that it's 50% of the total budget, but why is it so important?
Yes, it's the largest fund. The greatest amount of resources when you're talking about inflows and outflows are in the general fund. The general fund is also basically covers all of our departments, all of our functions, with very few exception, building and safety, utilities, those types of things. And so there's a lot of focus on the general fund because it's the largest. It's got the most varied program services as well as revenue and expenditure types. So I don't want to say it rises to the top like it's the highest priority, but when you're looking at resource allocation and forecasting and understanding what how these things could potentially impact service delivery, the general fund becomes the focus. Yeah, and it's less restrictive, and so there's more flexibility from the perspective of our policymakers and department heads when it comes to that. If we're limited or restricted and we can only spend money in a special revenue regional public safety training center is one of them, we can only spend those resources for that, and so we are limited in what we can use it for, what we're getting the money for, and what we can use it for. And so there's a lot of reasons why we focus on the general fund, but those are the main ones.
Can you talk a little bit more about, and I am going to go off the script, so I don't expect this answer to be perfect, but can you talk a little bit more about the reasons that maybe if there's revenue generated in one department, it's not necessarily attached to that one department, almost like an insurance policy maybe?
Right. As a matter of practice, there are revenues that are associated with certain program activities. If they're restricted, called program income. So if we have a federal program and we're providing services and we get income from those services, whether they're donations or they're patient submission or patient co-pays or responsibility, those types of things, those marry together. The other ones, yes, they might be related to that function. We do get public defender's fees. So there are fees that get ordered by the court, and then people pay for their public defense or, based on ability to pay. That does get recorded, but that's not necessarily if they get $10,000 more in a year than we thought we were going to, now they spend it. Because 2 years ago, they might have gotten $15,000 less than we expected. So they are recorded where they are, because we have to fund and function and related to those functionalities. But that one for one, especially when you have a lot of different things that could go into what makes that revenue happen. So, we have franchise fees. Well, who's managed, like utility franchise fees. We have them recorded in community services, but they're not necessarily related to community services activity or service delivery. So mostly they can be over, they can be under, and unless it's specifically tied or like grant revenue or something, if it comes in under, we got to figure it out. How's this going to impact? But there's not necessarily an immediate commensurate offset from the department side on their expenditures.
Thank you. One other question that we get quite often is, does the county invest its funds, and what rules do we have to follow? Can you talk a little bit more about how the county invests its funds?
The county does invest its funds. It's very strictly guided by NRS of how the county can invest funds. Just as a side note, the county treasurer is also tasked with investing funds from other entities. So a Regional Transportation Commission and the funds of the departments, Truckee Meadows, Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, Truckee Meadows Flood Management Authority, all those funds are invested within the guidelines of the investment policy and is managed and overseen by the county treasurer and an investment committee.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions you think that I missed or that you wish that we had talked about? You can say no.
Finance is fun.
Finance is fun. Finance is fun.
I don't have any questions, but I do just have a blanket statement going back to what you and Commissioner Andriola said. Microphone, thank you. Going back to what you and Commissioner Andriola said, we are very strictly driven by Nevada Administrative Code, INRS, all the reporting agencies. We do budget and financial reporting within those entities. We do have two amazing teams. Lori and I do not do this on our own, that do the job, and we're very proud of the work that we offer and the books and the financial reports that we prepare. So it is an honor and a privilege to work for Washoe County, and I'm very pleased with everything that we give.
I am also very pleased that we are on the same team. I can't tell you how grateful I am. I'm relatively new here, and the skill level on this team is absolutely incredible, second to none, and I can't tell you how thankful I am. Thank you so much for your expertise, for giving this presentation. One thing I forgot to say during the intro, and then I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner to close us out, is that we will have a survey. We are trying to enhance our engagement with any interested stakeholders or taxpayers or residents, and so any feedback, a survey that you receive in the next few weeks, please do answer it, because that'll enhance our ability to do this or some other type of outreach as preferred by you next year. So let me turn it over. But thank you so much for coming.
I'm going to see if I can balance. What I was going to do, I was going to try and see if I could balance. Big clap. Obviously, I can't balance a mic and clap at the same time. On a very serious note, I'd like to add a couple other things that are coming hot off the press in terms of the checkbook. In working with these amazing folks, and obviously we've seen the details about what's in the budget book and the scrolling of Comptroller Hill. But a lot of the departments and a lot of the funds have statutory requirements, compliance requirements. And so in, for instance, the budget book, you'll see where a particular fund or department may have those requirements. And so the goal is that in the checkbook, when you go to a department, if there's an applicable statutory or compliant piece, it will be referenced with that link. So it's not necessarily taking the budget book and moving it directly into the checkbook, but in working with the folks that you are meeting tonight, that I have the pleasure of working with a lot, was looking at putting that into the checkbook. So I wanted to just add that. That's coming, right? And also the fact that the feedback in terms of not only questions that have been coming in, but the questions or that have been provided, but questions as they come in. So in that page on the website that has the Washoe checkbook, when they scroll down and they had the FAQs and all the links, the questions that are coming in will be updated too. So please get your questions in. Don't think that tonight is just a one and done. It's a fluid opportunity for us to provide you with the answers to your questions. And if there's enough people that are asking those questions, then we'd like to be able to share them with everyone so that they can find it quickly. So really tonight, I don't know about you, it's been a while since I've been in college, but it certainly is a review opportunity to go through the video. That's a lot of information that was provided, but I hope the detail of how the budget is put together, the complexity, the requirements, the auditing, the oversight. And is everything perfect? No, nothing is perfect. I have no idea where anything can be perfect. But I think what you're seeing is the dedication to transparency, as we've mentioned, and that there may be bumps. That happens. But I also think that you can help us be better as well. And so giving that feedback is really, really helpful. So I'm going to try and balance it again. I really am hoping that when we do another round of applause, it's for the people that maybe aren't in this room, but are part of the team, because there are a lot of people that put this together. A lot of work goes into this, a lot of oversight, a lot of compliance, a lot of complexity. The more you understand, the better we can work together. And that's what I'm really hoping for. This is probably, somebody texted me and said, you seem very excited. I am excited. I mean, are you all excited? Can I feel it a little? Come, Charlie Hill, give me a little excitement over here. Okay, woo! It is exciting. You know, finance, and I have a finance background, it's just a pretty exciting opportunity, right? To look at underneath and what money is being spent on, how funding is coming in, what the projections, even the FTEs, I hope you saw that. You know, we're doing with the same amount of people and serving a lot more people, and less funding is coming in. But funding in itself is a long conversation that I'm going to skip for another opportunity to understand how that works. And the legislature has a lot of responsibility that's outside of the purview of Washoe County. So tonight I hope you're leaving with a lot more knowledge than when you came in, but also with the ability to maybe dedicate a little bit of time, rewatch the video, surf it, drive down all of those links. If you want to really enjoy yourself, you can have your printer ready, lots of paper, a lot of ink. You could print all of it out. Wouldn't that be lovely? I was sharing with somebody, we might have an economic boom with printers and ink with the Washoe checkbook. That's not the intent, but the intent is to get you all informed with facts, more knowledge, and understand the complexity of to which we all have to work. We're here to serve you, and this is one tool that helps us do that job. So thank you, Abby, the CFO. Thank you, Controller Hill. Thank you, Budget Manager Cook. Thank you to everyone for coming. Thank you for those that are watching. And I'm hoping that you have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much. You can go to washoecounty.gov, and on that main page, literally, will take you to the link. We're also going to upload the presentation so that everyone can go through it as well. So all of that will be available. But I'm doubting if you look at it tonight, it might not be there. But if you would go to washoecounty.gov, you'll be able to get to it. Is that helpful? Everybody, what am I going to do? Not say July 22nd. It's going to be July 22nd. Next year. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.